As an entrepreneur, you never have 100% of the information. You never know everything. You're never going to go into any business having all of the answers. There's just a degree of unknowns. And if you wait until you do have 100%, you've waited too long and you're going to miss so many opportunities. I just went for it and it was really difficult. It really is. I would say that first step is the hardest, like I said. But once you do it, you start to realize and you learn and it becomes easier and you got to do it and you're just going to learn it as you go. But here's the good news. You don't unlearn it.
Welcome, fellow entrepreneurs and goal getters, to Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within with myself, your host, Kelly Beveridge. Hey everyone, I'm really happy to be here today because I have one of my longtime childhood friends on the podcast today. We have known each other since preschool. Believe it or not, gone to elementary, junior high, high school together, and we're still friends, which I think speaks for the relationship. So super excited to have Dr. DJ LeDrew on. DJ is a chiropractor and a businessman, and I'm really excited to speak to him today because I want to talk to him about how he's constantly had the ability and the vision and the foresight to be able to level up within his industry and with what he does. He started as a chiropractor and now he just acquired his fifth practice. So he is the owner of Full Potential Chiropractic, of Cochrane Family Chiropractic, of Tuscany Chiropractic and Massage, and Walden Chiropractic and Massage, and he just acquired his fifth one. So he's got lots of wisdom and experience in how to scale your business, and excited to talk to him about that today and learn from him. And so DJ, if you can come on, Dr. DJ LeDrew, and if you can just share, like, how did you even get into choosing chiropractic as a career path? Because I admire people who know what they want to do at a younger age and they follow it through. And then actually too, why are you so passionate about it?
Yeah, so for me, my childhood was a little bit different than many. I really struggled with debilitating migraine headaches. I'd come down with a headache every, few weeks, month, and it would knock me out for a few days. And I'm a Canadian kid. I played hockey. All I wanted to do was play hockey and go to school like a normal kid, but I ended up having to miss a lot of school and miss hockey. And it wasn't until I had been to specialists, neurologists, had all sorts of testing done, and no one could figure out why I had migraine headaches. And I was 11 years old playing hockey, and one of the dads on the team had noticed that I had been missing quite a bit of hockey. So he mentioned to my parents what was going on. And so they told him that I was struggling with these migraines. And he said, you know what, I might be able to help him. So next time he has a migraine, I want you to bring him to the office. So sure enough, I come down with a headache in a couple of weeks or so. My parents take me in to see Dr. Bob, and he did an adjustment on me. And for the first time in my life, the migraines went away. And
wow.
That's the moment I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor. From the time I was 11 years old, I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor. So I went through school, grade school, and of course you have your limiting beliefs and think you're not smart enough or you don't have the money or this or that. And eventually I was in university and I just knew it was my calling and my path and decided I was going to go for it. And I think the reason I'm so passionate about it is it was just such a wonderful experience for me. It changed my life. I would say it saved my life because it was really difficult to live with the headaches that I did, and I just couldn't live a normal life. And then go through school and you start practice and you start to see the amazing impact you can have with patients with your hands. And you can make a wonderful difference in their lives and get them back to doing the things that they love to do. And so that's why I'm just so passionate. I love to help people.
I love that. I never knew that story about you, actually. And I think a lot of times that's how people find their passions, is something goes on in their life personally. And when their problem can get solved, they align with that as, oh my gosh, this helped me. I can go and help other people now. So that's really cool, DJ, and good for you for following your path, even with the limitations, because let's speak to that. Like, how many people say they want to do something and they get excited about it, and then the mindset pops in there and says, you can't, and you're not smart enough. And what makes you think you can go and do that? As you were applying to school to be a chiropractor, and then getting into your first year or two, how did you work through that? What kind of mindset did you adapt such that you built the belief in yourself that you were good at what you were doing?
Yeah, I would say the first real thing that happened to me, I would say we were in grade 11. You might remember Miss Simpson teaching us math 20. And she just said I wasn't smart enough to do math 30.
Yeah.
And I was almost a little bit devastated because I knew I needed math 30 to get into university. And I knew I needed Math 30 to get into chiropractic school because I had to go to university.
Mhm.
But I'm a pretty stubborn person. I'm not the type of person who lets people tell me what I'm going to do in my life. So I was just like, I gave her the old FU and was like, I'm going to make this happen. And so then I got into university, and my first year, I was an athlete. So I wrestled at the University of Calgary, and trying to manage both academics and athletics is challenging to start. Once I got into the groove, I developed good habits, and I started to get really good grades because I knew I wanted to apply to chiropractic school. So I just worked really hard and was able to get good grades. And honestly, I wasn't too worried. I got into chiropractic school, and because I had good grades coming out of university, I was able to get a scholarship that helped pay for some of that. So I wasn't really too worried about it. Once I got in, I knew I was set. And I'm pretty goal oriented. So I'm like, I'm going to be the smartest kid in my class. I'm going to be the valedictorian. And I just hustled, and I was able to accomplish that goal. And I think ultimately for me, I just wanted to be the best doctor I could. And so I worked my butt off because I just felt it was my obligation for future people that I'm trying to work with and patients. And I wanted them to know that I was smart and could help take care of them.
I love that, DJ. What I love is you're sharing. I'm just thinking about how important vision is when we're going after something we want, right? Because we're all going to be faced with limitations. And you talk about this teacher, yet the truth is that happens to everybody. And it's actually a very real story. Somebody tells us we're not smart or we can't do something, and it sticks with us. Yet I know that vision is so important when we're moving forward in our life, because when those stories pop up, when the limitations pop up, when the obstacles pop up, when you have a clear vision and a strong vision and you're connected to it, it pulls you through, right? And you said, I'm going to be the smartest one. I'm going to be the valedictorian. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be able to give back to the best of my abilities as part of your vision. So speak to that a bit. What's your thoughts when it comes to clarity around the direction you're going to support you in doing what's necessary day to day?
Yeah, I think that changes and evolves over the years. I think you just have to stay in tune. What are your highest priorities and what is most important for you? And that's going to change over time. And and this is a classic example. So I made the national team when I was coming out of university, and I had a dream of becoming an Olympian. And I really had a tough choice to make because I got accepted to chiropractic school. And if you want to go to the Olympics, as a wrestler, you don't peak till you're 26. I was 22 years old. I had a 4-year window, a cycle to go through, and just my vision changed. And I knew I wanted to just go help people in a different way. So I retired from wrestling at that point. But I think it's important to recognize authentically what is your highest priorities, what is most important to you, and you focus on that vision with laser focus and don't quit. You go for it, and you got through. But it's going to evolve over the years, and my vision has certainly evolved. It started as me wanting to build this beautiful practice and help a lot of people, and now it's totally different. My vision is I will obviously want to continue to help people, and I help way more people than I ever could have imagined or than I could have done my own. But now my vision is to help build the value of chiropractic as a profession and help our doctors succeed and help hit their goals and achieve what they want in their life as well, clinically and personally. Yeah, I think that all just changes over the years.
Yeah, it's so true. And it changes because you're in action, right? You're taking steps towards what you want. And as you're doing that, your vision grows and your vision gets bigger as you start to see results come in and you get validated and your belief grows. And so let's chat about this, because you really are somebody who has constantly leveled up. So you went through school, you started to be a chiropractor, which you did that for a while and you loved it. Mm-hmm. And then you and I were chatting earlier when you said, okay, things changed, right? You realized you didn't want to trade your time for money and you couldn't be the business. And then also you did start to experience some injury, which caused you to take a look at, okay, what do I have to do different? And so can you speak to that time where you decided that I'm going to actually open my first practice myself?
Yeah, for me, coming out of school, I had looked around to potentially do an associateship or this or that, but there really wasn't many opportunities. So, and I was looking to start a new space, but there wasn't any good locations. There was nothing that I loved to start. So it was a funny story. I had a friend who lived in this community on the west end of Calgary, and there was this plaza there. And for some reason, I always felt like this plaza would be a great place for a chiropractic practice. And I swear the universe is just as a path for me. I decided I was going to start knocking on doors of chiropractors and see if I could rent a room. I went to that building. The very first practice I went to, I literally went to that building. There was a chiropractor in there. And I looked on the wall and it said the hours, and it just said 2 days a week this person was in there. I'm like, maybe I can rent it the other 3 days. So I reach out to the guy and he's actually, you know what? I've got another practice. I'd sell that one to you. And it wasn't a very busy practice. It wasn't seeing very many people. It was just paying the bills maybe. So I bought it. I was able to get a loan somehow, came out of school with student loans, and I have no idea. The lady at Scotiabank, I remember her name was Dorothy DeBoscus. I'll never forget her. She was just this wonderful lady.
You remember her name. That's awesome.
Changed my life. And it's like she gave me an opportunity that nobody else would. I had debts. I didn't come from a wealthy family. I had to do all this on my own, and she gave me a loan. And yeah, I bought that practice, and the rest is history in terms of how that practice went. And like I said, I feel like the universe is just behind me, and sometimes you fight it, but when it slaps you in the face, and it did it a few times because I knew I had a big calling in chiropractic to make a difference just with the scale of how big my practice built and what we were doing. And then I manifested a herniated disc in my low back. And that was the first time I had an aha where I realized that I didn't have a business. I had a job. When my practice was my job, I was going in. Sure, I had a business, but without me, that business went to nothing. So I had like debilitating low back pain shooting down my legs, burning in my leg. And so I couldn't work, which means we had to close the practice. I was the only one in there. I think I had a massage therapist or two in there at that time. But so I had to work on my back, but then I realized, okay, I got a major risk here. So then I started to focus on bringing in associates, and it's challenging, but you're giving up money to bring people in, and you're giving up patients and that kind of thing. But it was the right thing to do to protect your downside. It's just cost benefit analysis. So I brought my first associate in, and I'd had a couple associates over the years, and I started to enjoy working with them and coaching them and training them and building the practice. And then over the years, I developed another injury, and I hurt my shoulder. And this time, so when I hurt my back, I only missed a couple of weeks of work. I was able to get it under control pretty quickly, and I made some changes in practice on how I do things. So then when I hurt my shoulder, I had to have surgery. And so I was out for 11 months where I couldn't work. And in that time, I saw my practice, like I'd had other doctors coming in to cover me, but I had seen that my practice volume was decreasing over time. They weren't able to retain people quite like I was. So that made me realize, gosh, I got to diversify even more, because ultimately you're making a big high income and you got a high lifestyle. I didn't have enough passive revenue or income to pay for my lifestyle in case something happened. So that was a big thing. I had to realize, oh, geez, this isn't the answer. So that's when I started to branch out and buy. I had started a practice then, and then I slowly started to acquire practices over the next 8 years.
Yeah. You shared lots of takeaways in what you just talked about. So one, I just want to recap, realizing that when you're the one who has to trade your time for money, and if you step away, a lot of business owners can relate to this because it's by no fault of our own. Yet all of a sudden we realize, wait a minute, I have a job, or the business is running me. I'm not running the business, because if I step aside, it's not going to run at the level that I would desire it to if I was there. And I think a lot of business owners go through that. And I think sometimes it's got to get painful for ourselves to realize it before we start to do things different and allowing shifts. And I think a part of that is letting go of control, right? Because I know my belief a lot of times is no one's going to care about my business as much as me. And it's stepping that belief aside and realizing, one, there's people out there that can do it better than me. And it's just about enrolling them onto my team. And how great would that be? And I know that's what you started to do and started to implement. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs could hear that message. Letting go of control actually opens up the door for so much other opportunity to bring other talent in and to be able to expand and grow. It's a big part of leveling up, having leverage. If you don't have leverage, you're not going to be able to scale. And so talk about what was some of the adversity that you went through when you scaled to the first one. So let's just focus on the first one, because you had mentioned that going to the first one was actually the hardest, right? And I think a lot of people want to take that leap of faith or that jump, yet it can be so big. It's a big mountain sometimes. So what's some of the adversity that you actually came up against, and what's the mindset you adopted to move through it?
Yeah, for sure. The first one is really tricky. As an entrepreneur, you never have 100% of the information. You never know everything. You're never going to go into any business having all of the answers. There's just a degree of unknowns. And if you wait until you do have 100%, you've waited too long and you're going to miss so many opportunities. And for me, I wanted to try, and I was willing to do what it takes. And that's just my personality. Do whatever it takes to make it happen. But it was a big leap, and I was scared. I promise you, it was rough. But you got to take a swing, man. You got to take the bat off your shoulder, and you got to go for it. And you just, the figure of speech, you burn the ships. You just go all in. But I'll tell you, it was surprising. Like I looked at these investments originally. My original thought was like, okay, I'd own some real estate, invest in real estate. I can't drive up the numbers of a real estate investment. Like if I'm buying a residential property and renting it out, there's a limit there. I looked at these practice and I'm like, I have so much knowledge in this area. This is my wheelhouse. I knew I could pull the levers to make that business successful if I just put my wisdom into it. So originally I was just looking at it like, okay, all I got to do is be able to pay a mortgage and then pay a loan essentially for this business. And over time I could put my wisdom into it and make the revenues go. So yeah, I would say that's how it started. I just went for it and it was really difficult. It really is I would say that first step is the hardest, like I said. But once you do, you start to realize and you learn and it becomes easier. And as we started to scale over the years, it just become a lot easier and easier. And then obviously going to one as the owner, you have a lot of work to do because you're not in a place where you can afford staff. You have to make sure your cash flows are there and then you bring staff in. And so the first one's the hardest one because you got to do a lot. But then once you start to scale and then it makes sense to hire staff to help you with all the stuff that you really shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. So it sounds like you really took full ownership of it, right? I'm going to give this a go. And of course I want it to work out and let's see. And then you took ownership, realizing that I'm going to have to ante up and put the sweat equity in, right, to make this a success. And I think that's a great lesson for people to hear too, right? Sometimes we want the outcome without being willing to hang out in what I like to call the investment stage of developing your new skills, right? You are now like a true business owner with an establishment. And so you had to grow as a business person and put your business hat on and grow personally as well. What do you think on that note? How do you think you've grown as a person each time you take that next step or you scale up or you acquire another chiropractic clinic? How have you grown, DJ, through this process?
You have to go through the process to learn. Like you just have to do it. And there's certain things you're never going to know until you're in it. You got to be willing to learn for one. So I would say like personally, I have so many life lessons, but I think as you grow, your business grows. I've learned how to delegate. I've learned time management. I've learned how to manage my team. There's so many things that you learn, but I would say the biggest lessons is that you got to get into it. You got to do it and you're just going to learn it as you go. But here's the good news. You don't unlearn it, right? When you go to the next one. So you always learn. And then like you say, you level up. Now you take that knowledge and then you level up and you apply that wisdom to the next one. And then you do it again and again. And it gets easier and easier. And you're never going to be perfect. Like even still, I'm on my 8th practice and I feel like I've almost got the model, but it's got to tweak just a hair. And there's always something that comes up. We're not perfect. And then maintaining balance in your life. Like here's the hard part as an entrepreneur, there's always work to do. It literally never ends. You could always come to your home office, at least I am, and sit there on my computer. So you've got to create that balance. You need thinking time. You can't fill your time with busy work. So you've got to prioritize your time. I instituted, how many years ago? It was probably like 5 years ago, where I pick a quarter and I pick 1 to 3 things that I'm working on in that quarter. I pick one, my top priority. I pick a top priority every day that I'm working on, every week, every month, and every quarter. And I pick that thing that I need to get done because as an entrepreneur, there's a million things that come into your mind. And for me, I'm like big shiny object. I can start a million things and I wasn't finishing things. So I try to pick my highest priority that I absolutely have to do. What's going to move my needle the most in my business? And I work on it for that quarter. And then I move on and I don't start something else until that's completed. So that was a big lesson. Prioritizing your time, like I said, but also taking your downtime, recognizing your rhythms. For me, there's certain times of the year where I go hard, and then there's certain times where I need to just take a break and think. And I go for an hour walk with my dog every day. I talk to my wife, and she's probably sick of hearing all my business stuff, but it's like how I get through things, and I just almost talk my way and through how I'm learning. So I don't know, I hope that helps.
No, it's great advice, DJ. And so I have a couple questions based on what you just shared, because you sound really knowledgeable and that you've worked a lot on yourself.
Yes.
Did you have a coach along the way? Did you get support or did you take courses? Speak to that because it can be a lonely journey as an entrepreneur and a business owner. And we tend to deal with a lot of it on our own. Mm-hmm. So what have you done to get support from the outside looking in?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, a lot. I started early in my career as a chiropractor and all my coaching was about like chiropractic practice. And I've had many coaches and you learn different pieces from everybody. And Then I started to really work on myself personally. John DeMartini, I've done the Hoffman process. I read a lot of books on business. I love to read about business and wealth accumulation and money management and that kind of stuff, just to build my money certainty. I don't come from a wealthy family, so I was never taught these things. I just felt I had to learn. And honestly, I got burned on a few investments, and I was sick of giving my money to people for them to squander it. And I would say that's another reason how I got into this whole thing. I had a guy who was 175 grand, and I was pissed off. And I'm like, I'm giving these idiots money that they don't know how to manage it better than me. So I just said, forget that. So I just started taking control of my own investments. And yeah, so I've had lots of coaches. I read lots of books. You don't even necessarily need a coach per se. I think it's still valuable to have coaching. You need people to help get you through a level, but then you got to work through it on your own and come up with your own plan and your unique talents that you bring to your business and honor that. And then you just get a little tidbit from a book here and there or a podcast. And I'm always learning and growing. I never stop. I really enjoy that.
I like that. And so how do you apply what you've learned? Because you said you have spider monkey, you're like, oh, this shiny object, right? There's so much information out there. Yeah. What's your process to actually apply? Because I think a lot of people do read and a lot of people genuinely do go to take courses. Are they applying and being willing to change and implement new things to get a different result?
That's a tough question. I don't know that I have a great answer for that. I think it's just how I mentioned before, my priorities for that quarter. I'll really focus on that. So if my focus is on hiring, for example, or recruitment, I'll read books about recruitment. And then I just take the major highlights that I got from that book and I try to incorporate them. If it's about marketing or if it's about financial management or if it's about profit, taking profit, I don't know. I just do. I don't really have anything special.
It sounds like you eliminate distractions. You have your goal, you make a plan, you create priorities, you eliminate distractions, and then you focus on the one thing until you get the growth or the result or the forward progress from what you want for it, or you perfect it or you develop the skill, and just keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it is just getting rid of the noise. There's so many things that I'm not a social media guy. I can't be distracted. I want to focus on my highest priorities and I want to continue to make a difference. And that's what I do. Yeah, that's where my focus lies.
Cool. Before I want to dive back into a little bit more about your business and how you've scaled, yet because we're on the topic of values and priorities, at the same time, you're a family man, right? You've got a wife, you've got 2 kids. So can you speak to that? I don't like the word balance, yet how do you make sure that your personal needs are met? So self-love, our own needs for ourselves, you're being willing and able to give to your children, your wife, and at the same time, pour a lot of energy into your business.
I think you need to define your values, your core values and what they are. And there's many ways to do that online. There's lots of resources. You define your core values and you weigh your life against them and make sure that you're living within your core values. And for me, freedom is my top core value, business growth and development, my family, and then my health. So I weigh my life again, and I have to check in on this and making sure that I'm living within my core values, because you'll deviate off and it's like spokes to a wheel. And if you're not living in all of those, in balance in all of those, you're going to have a crooked wheel. I just know that I live my best life and I'm fulfilled when I have my family time. That is important to me, but it's also important to me to work, and it's also important to me to travel and be free. So you have to, because there's always work to do. There's always money to be made. And that's hard for, especially an overachiever or people who are type A driven, is that you can just keep going. And when is enough? And that was some valuable lessons to me too, because I attracted these injuries or manifested these injuries because I didn't know when enough was enough. There was just the more the merrier. I could help as many people as I possibly can, and at the expense of what? I think the universe slaps you in the face, but you got to be willing to listen. And I've had my face slapped a few times, but I've listened and I've tried to grow and learn as a person. But now I just look at it and I look at what my success criteria are, and I look at my values, and I just make sure I'm living within my values. And it's something that I constantly recheck. In fact, I've done a lot of work on this. I don't know if John DeMartini, but I really like his work. He's got a master planning for life. You plan all 7 areas of your life, and it's days of work that you define what you want your life to look like. And I put a lot of work into that, and it's important. And I try to manifest it.
I love you, John DeMartini. I'll put his values assessment in the show notes as well, because we're talking about it. I actually use that, DJ, as a coaching tool whenever I work with somebody one-on-one. Before I hop on our first session, I have them do that exercise, because I'm like, there's no point in us setting goals if you're not clear on what your values are. Yeah. It's crucial in being aligned and being fulfilled, I think, inwardly, as we set goals and move towards them. And it's about consciously scheduling our life and designing our life our way. Because as you said, if you're not diligent with this, by default, your life will start to look like the accumulation of other people's values. People at your work, your parents, your friends. It's so easy for that to happen. And so I think this is a very important piece of life success, is knowing what your values are and falling in line with them and paying attention to that. So I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm going to put that assessment in the link for people.
Yeah.
It's really important. And it actually is almost like a guide, right? It makes it easier to make decisions of what we say yes to and what we say no to. It just, once again, simplifies so much. Okay, so DJ, you went from 1 to now 5, right? Clinics or practices? I'm so sorry. What do I call it? Is it a practice?
Yeah, practice clinic. Whatever. It's multidisciplinary. We have generally chiro, physio.
My businesses, right? I know that for you, you have a big heart, and a big piece of why you do what you do is because you want to impact people's lives positively and with their health.
Yeah.
What else do you do to differentiate yourself from other chiropractic businesses or businesses in general? So when you went to 1 to 5, obviously you had to put new measures into place.
Yeah.
So how were you able to do that with what you're doing that's different? Because I know we talked about that as well.
Yeah, lots of things. How the chiropractic profession sort of runs industry standards, it's not a really good way to run your business. So I've had to work hard on how can we make this a business that's a win-win for people coming in terms of like maybe associates, but also from the owner from a profitability standpoint. I'm also like a nut with metrics. I love to analyze my business, my key performance indicators or statistics or whatever, to determine how my business is doing in real time all the time. So I would say I've done that a lot. I put a lot of effort into just determining those metrics and how our business is performing. And then the other thing, like in chiropractic, the industry standard is you bring associates in or people that work for you and they're paid on a percentage split. But the problem with that is that, in my opinion, is that you're not working collaboratively. You're not a team. So it's almost like someone's on their own. They're trying to get as many people as they can to build their percentage up. But as the owner, if I bring a newer doctor in and a patient comes to see me, I'm going to be able to stick with them longer. I'm going to be able to get a different result. So it's not in my best interest to train the doctor, or I don't have time to train the doctor because I'm working hard in my clinic as it is and trying to run the business. And then with the general percentages that we're offering, I'm not really incentivized to do it either. So I really try to just change that model. And so now I've got a model where we pay our doctors a base salary, which isn't really that often in chiropractic because it's a huge risk for the owner. You're guaranteeing a salary and you don't know what this person's going to produce. But the risk is also on me. I've got to help them produce and I've got to teach them and help them learn. So I think it gets buy-in from both sides. And then we all work together to try to build the total volume of the practice, not one person versus another. Everybody's working together. And I think it works really well. I think we've had a lot of success with it. And it also worked from a business owner standpoint because now I can generate a profit and I can generate an income for my time and effort. And obviously that's what business is about. I have numbers on what I want out of every practice, and it's my job to get them there.
Yeah, I love that. And I like that you're like, I know my point A, right? I think as a business owner, sometimes depending on our personalities, you're analytical. So you're like, I always know my point A. Yet it's so important to know our point A so we can make those little tweaks and adjustments to get to where we want to go. And I love that as you share about how you pay the people that work with you. It's such a win-win mentality, DJ. Mm-hmm. And I think as a business owner, that's huge. That's my belief. That's my philosophy. Not always easy to practice, yet to do our best. And I think a lot of business owners miss the beat on that part. Yet if you want people to show up and bring their A game, what's in it for them? And that idea of servant leadership, where you're in the trenches with your team and you're working with them. And I believe if you want to get somebody to do what you want them to do, which is enrollment, you can't just tell them and expect them to go and do it. There's a key component there. It's showing them. It's telling them and then showing them what to do so they go and do it. And so I love that that's how you've stepped into your leadership role, right, with your different clinics. And obviously it's fostering, would you say it's fostering a team environment that you're happy with?
Yeah. We're going to do over 50,000 visits this year. It's like we did over 40,000 last year. So everybody's working together. We're helping a lot of people and it's fun. And we train together and we work together so they feel like they're a part of a team and it's a culture. And I think that's really important, especially with this next generation. Like culture is important. Satisfaction is important. Fulfillment is important. Yeah. And that's a big theme for me this year is really trying to create our culture and making sure that People are having fun. How many people are miserable? And they just, excuse the language, but bitch and moan about life. And it's like, this is your work, your day can be awesome. It can be so fun, or you can see it as a burden.
Yeah.
What's up to you? So why not have fun? Why not find the joy in what you do and love it and enjoy it and have a great time? And energy attracts energy, and energy attracts people. We're going to be way busier when you're showing up and you're energetic and you're having fun. People are going to come. They want to be around that.
Yeah, that's so true. And you're obviously exemplifying it as the leader. And I always say you can never go wrong with an investment of others. Like your time is not wasted in investing in others. The return on that is huge.
Absolutely.
The return on that is huge. So what do you say when it comes to the level of sacrifice? So almost wrapping up here in the next little while, yet you've shared your journey with us in a short amount of time. I know there's a lot more in that, yet what do you say when you talk about the level of sacrifice? I have a belief that sacrifice is required and sacrifice equals the reward until you get to a certain point where you're enjoying the fruits of your labor. And I don't know, I'm stuck between this whole hustle culture idea and putting in the sweat equity and level of sacrifice versus ease and flow and manifestation and all of that. Yet what's your take? Because I know you've sacrificed so much to get to where you are now, to be able to be in more of the enjoyment phase of your life.
That's right. My dad always taught me hard work now makes it easier tomorrow. So you have to sacrifice. You have to go all in. You have to be the one that does everything. Work your tail off, and you can't quit. And even if things get rough, you just keep trucking along, man. And you just can't stop. And I think the universe is a path for me? Sure. But not without work. It's success without practice. And when I was an athlete, it doesn't exist. You have to put the work in. But when you put the work in, the universe really opens up for you. And that hard work certainly now opens up a lot more freedom down the road. You work hard today and you get more freedom down the road tomorrow. And still, I would still say I'm probably the hardest working in my business in terms of the amount of time and effort and hours I put in. But I'm working because I love it. I do the things that I really want to do. I'm not doing the stuff I delegate what I don't like to do. I know what my highest priorities are and I focus on those.
Yeah, well, that's cool. It's like the compound effect is a real thing. And the more you do that, then exponentially your results will start to show up as well, too, which is great. DJ, what would you say now is your idea of success? What does success mean to you?
Yeah, I want to finish up on one point. I'll get to that. But there is a ton of sacrifice as a business owner. There are times when you aren't in balance, and that's a reality. So accept it. There are times when you aren't spending the time with your family, and that's just how it goes. There are times you aren't exercising or eating. You just have to. There are times, now that doesn't last forever, but there are times where you have to put 100% focus on your business to make sure that it's going to go. But once you get it to the profit, now you can start to really evaluate your life and focus on those. So your question was, what are my success criteria? Is that what you said?
What's your version of success now? Like where before it might have been like hustle and grind and earn the income for my family. Like, now, when you think of DJ's ultimate version of a successful life, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I've literally defined this because I just want to make sure I'm going after these things because, man, you can just take on things that aren't really what you want in your life. And you see an opportunity come around, you're like, oh, that's a great opportunity, but what is it taking me away from? What is it doing? So for me, my list starts with, I don't have to clock in. I don't want to get involved in things where I have to show up and have a schedule. I want to work now when I want to work. I don't need anybody to tell me to work. I can handle that all on my own, but I used to have to go in to see patients all the time. I don't do that anymore. I used to have a schedule, so that was really important to me. My passive revenue exceeds my lifestyle needs. I can wake up every day and I get to choose what I'd like to do. I work for fulfillment and contribution, not necessity. I'm fortunate enough to be at a stage where I'm working on the things that I really want to do. I love it. I don't need to work, but I'm doing it because I want to, and I have a big mission to make a difference in our community, and I'm committed to doing that. My business runs without me. So that's the other goal. I'm not perfect at that. I still have a heavy involvement, but I'm moving in that direction. So not all of these I'm achieving right yet, but I'm moving in that direction. And the other one for me is there's no whiny people in my life. I like to get rid of the people who bring me. I'm a positive guy. I want to, stay positive and do things that I enjoy doing. I don't want to be a part of people that bring me down.
Yeah, I love that. Did you read the book, The Gap in the Gain? Because he talks about that. My idea of success is no whiny people.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's where I got that from. And it's so true. It could be whiny or negative. I don't like negative people who see the world through a dark lens. I'm a total optimist. I'm a total achiever. I know I'm capable
That's
of whatever I
awesome.
put my mind to, and same with my kids. And it's like the worst thing you could ever do is rob your kids of confidence. And I love that about kids. They just see optimism, and that's what I'm trying to do with.
Absolutely. We can learn lots from them.
Yeah.
I love everything you shared about your version of success, DJ, and I know you're creating it and living it. And so just congrats, man. I love seeing my friends happy and achieving what they want for themselves and their families.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so last question. What are 3 pieces of advice you would give an entrepreneur who is wanting to level up? They're in action, yet they're just feeling a little bit stuck and they're struggling to achieve the next step for them, whatever that looks like. What would be 3 pieces of advice you would give that person?
Yeah. First one would be figure out what your highest priorities are, what your main needle movers in your business. What are the things that make your business tick? What are the things that make your business cash flow or profitable? Those absolute highest priorities, and what your unique talent is, what it is that you make the biggest difference, which string that you can pull that's going to make the biggest difference in your business, and then focus the time on those tasks and lay that out, and nothing else. Like 3 highest priorities for days, weeks, months, quarter. Focus on those things. So I would say that would be my number one, and nothing else gets in there. Don't be distracted, okay? Because there's always distractions in a business. The next one would be take the swing. Like I said, you're never going to have 100% of the information. You got to get the bat off your shoulders. You just got to get in, as long as you've got most of the information. And even when I bought my first practice, I still look. And I knew what my risk was. I knew how much, okay, if this went real south, I knew how much the risk would be, how much money I would lose, and I was willing to take that risk. So as long as you have that kind of information, but you go all in. So I would say don't be afraid to do that. The other thing I would say is make sure you take profit. Sometimes expenses run away. Make sure you're taking profit, because what happens is that you have more money going into the bank account, and if you don't manage it, it's gone. And there's always stuff to buy. So focus on your profit, carve that out first, carve your wage out, and then the expenses come after. That's really important. So making sure that you're taking a profit, you have the finances to continue to pay your life. That's why you're working.
Absolutely. It's why my old mentor used to say, if you're not making money, it's a hobby, not a business. And I'm like, oh, dang, that's so true. Great advice, DJ. If there was one more thing you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up, any last thoughts?
Yeah, the next thing I would say is, if you want to scale, whatever your success criteria is, you got to start to go after it. So years back for me, I created a stop doing list. And I knew that I had to either stop doing these things, because there's always things that you have to do when you start a business that necessarily isn't your highest value time. Or it's like you could pay someone $20 an hour to do, and you're worth hundreds or whatever it is. So I would say create a stop doing list, the things that you need to stop doing or delegate, and slowly tackle that list for how you want your life to be based on your values. If I have a vision for my life and I want to not have to clock in, and I want to have my passive investments cover my lifestyle, and I want to be able to travel at any time when I want, you have to have these things set in place, and you slowly tackle that list. And that's what will bring you fulfillment in your career, in your life, in your family's life. And that's just what makes life so fun. And you start really focusing on the things that you love to do. And it's just not a job. It's great.
Oh my gosh, I love it. What a great note to end on. DJ, thanks so much for being here. Where can people find you if they wanted to come to one of your clinics, which I know they're going to want to, just knowing how much you absolutely care about them. So where can people find you?
We have websites for every clinic, but they're all linked to my main website that I would practice out of is fullpotentialchiro.com, all one word. So that would be our main practice. And then it has a list of all the practices that I'm affiliated with on there. And then I'm not a huge social media guy. I do have LinkedIn, just Dr. DJ LeDrew, but I'm not super active, but I do update that a little bit here and there.
Awesome. And we'll put all that information in the show notes so that people can just go on and click there. They can get your website. They can access you on LinkedIn. I'll put Dr. DeMartini's value assessment in there. DJ, lastly, what's next for you? What do you have on the horizon?
I really wanted to get this 5th one set up. So I'm probably going to take a little breather through the summer. I'm going to go to Europe and take a bit of time. But I do have some outside investors, private equity that are interested in this business model. So I'm just trying to decide if I want to go down that road and really try to get to the next level in Canada. or if I just keep doing these sort of one-offs and continue to go. My next step is I really got to build a bigger team. I'm capped with my team right now in terms of me and my operations manager. We generally run everything. We definitely need more team. The next step would be hiring recruitment, hiring business development, and that kind of stuff. So it's just making a decision on that, which is the crossroads I'm at right now.
I know you're going to make it the right one for you, and just best of luck. And I'm cheering you on, and I just love watching your journey, and all the success to you, DJ.
Thanks so much, Kelly. Great. Thanks for having me on here.
Of course.
That was such an awesome episode for me, because that's a good friend of mine of almost 40 something years. So I'm just loving my podcast because I'm getting to reconnect with so many people. I hope all of you listening got value. And please, if you're looking for a chiropractor, check out one of DJ's clinics here within the city and the surrounding city of Calgary. Reach out to him if you have questions about health. He's just a great guy. He cares, and he wants you to be the best version of yourself. And our health is so important. And so if you enjoyed that episode, if you can like it and subscribe, that would be awesome. You can go and check it out on YouTube as well and subscribe there. And if you are on a health journey, I do want to share in the show notes, you'll find my website. Go on there and check it out, or you'll also see a link for some discounts on products that I'm an affiliate with. And there's nutritional products there and supplements. They're clinically proven, innovative. The company's been around for 30 plus years, 75 plus scientists on staff, amazing nutritional supplements. I take them daily. I swear by them for my support and my health and building my antioxidants up and gut health and energy levels and inflammation and all of that good stuff. So there's a big discount there for all of you who are within my audience and followers. And you can also reach out to me on my website if you have questions. I'd be more than happy to help and guide you in the right direction. So that's available to you. Thanks so much for listening. And with love, greatness, and success, it's Kelly Beveridge.